In this presentation, we're going to talk about choosing and using images and about some of the ethics of images. This is an interesting PowerPoint slide with no images. The bullet points are quite interesting. The slide is boring, it's not visually appealing, and it doesn't have a mood or visual style. So images can add interest, can create a mood, can help to illustrate a point, can be visually appealing, and add to the visual style. Images can be merely decorative or convey information. USA Today has they're called snapshots, so little visually illustrated stories. So this is a few examples of them. So you can get a full story of information just looking at some images that they've created. There's another one, free time choices, spending on furry friends, and people jittery about the world. So photographs seem more real than clip art. Now, this is kind of obvious in this slide. But a slide like this is where it kind of comes into question. This was taken, supposedly taken shortly after 9/11. You can see there's even a timestamp in the picture. And it created a lot of outrage on the internet. But this photo was actually created in Photoshop. But people believed it for a while that there was a guy standing on top of the Twin Towers. This is an image of O.J. Simpson. The original photo is on the Newsweek cover on the left-hand side. Time magazine decided to darken it and make him seem more sinister. So they took some heat for obviously having an opinion behind this article. Magazine covers are considered artwork, so they can or may not get away with it. This, on the other hand, was from a newspaper. This photo ran in the New York Times, March 31st, 2003, the LA Times. And it turns out that the photographer had altered this image. Newspapers and press photographers have a very strict code of ethics that photos are not going to be retouched in a newspaper or in the news section of magazines, of a news magazine. But this photo was composited from the two photos below to the photo above. This was a freelance photographer, and he was fired immediately because the photos in a newspaper are not going to be retouched. This was another very famous photo from 1970 of the aftermath of the shooting at Kent State University. And notice that there's a merger out of the woman's head. There's a pole that's a fence. People were surprised to find out that this was the photo that ran in Life magazine, Time magazine, People magazine, and a couple of times, that the photo had been retouched. And this was before Photoshop, so this was done in the darkroom. But it kind of can change the meaning because you don't see the fence there anymore. But it's just sort of interesting that it was an altered photograph and widely accepted. This is the University of Madison admissions application cover. And a great picture of people having fun. But this guy wasn't actually there. So they used Photoshop to look like there's diversity on campus. Maybe okay, again, for the cover magazine, but once it was found out, they looked kind of foolish. This photo is a photo that ran in an Orthodox Jewish newspaper. And it's a photo of the Israeli cabinet. The problem with this photo, if you look at the top version, there are actually women serving on the cabinet in Israel. But according to this Orthodox newspaper, they cannot show photographs of women in the paper. And so they removed all the women. They did the same thing with this famous photo of the capturing of bin Laden. This is the photo that ran, where they took Hillary out of the picture, and they took, I'm going to go back, there was a woman in the back of the frame, and they took her out too. This is a photo of the BP Command Center, shortly after the oil spill in the Gulf. And this they sent out, and their PR package, we're working hard on this, July 16th, 2010. But this is the original photo. So it's really not a good idea to go to Photoshop when you're having a PR crisis. You can see that these images are fine. It's not really a big deal, but once people find out it's photographed, it does make you look like you're being deceptive. So once it kind of came out that this was a fake photo, it really kind of hurt the PR campaign. This is another photo that's fairly famous. A guy named Shepard Fairey created this poster, and it became very, very popular. You can kind of look back and forth. He was sued by the Associated Press for using a photograph. And this is the original photograph, and the photographer's name was Manny Garcia. He was a freelance photographer for the Associated Press. And you got to look, when you're looking at a photograph, this artist altered the photograph. But would this poster image be as good if it didn't have this expression captured by the original photographer? There may or may not be a good answer to this, but it's kind of the ethics of using a photograph for art and things. So some tips for just using images or clip art or things like that. Word, PowerPoint, all have like postage stamp kind of clip art that you can use. I think this is one from there. But you don't have to use it in postage stamp. You can pop it up or make it really big. So realize that you can alter clip art or not use it in its original form and create all kinds of kind of fun things with it. There's another clip art, postage stamp size. Make it big. This is an example of clip art, again from Microsoft Word. You can break this clip art apart or use pieces of it. And that's what happened here in this logo. Now, copyright-wise, I believe Microsoft still owns that tree image, but you can kind of see what you can do with clip art. So you don't have to accept it just plain as it is. You can experiment and create with it. This is from a magazine called Before After Magazine that just gives you an idea of how you can take an image and create something really dynamic with it. So just take a small portion of it and make it huge. It makes the cover of that book look really dynamic. Another one from them, they took one photo and cut it up into little pieces to make a whole magazine layout out of it. So kind of thinking in how you can break apart and use pieces of an image. This one they used the tip of the wing and created a foreground for the image, sort of gave it some depth. And one more here is they took the chair and cut it up into little pieces to make an ad.